Okay, plumber PSA. Got your sink roughed in, and we're getting ready to set it. We're wanting to put all our connections on first. And this is the way it looks after the sheetrockers and the painters have been through. So we'll start with the drain. What I like to do is when I first rough in, I like to put a piece, just a scrap piece of PVC in here. It allows them to take it out and cut around it like you see here. But also with that in there, it kind of helps keep them from covering it up. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of paint or sheetrock in there, but with that little stub piece in there, that helps keep that out of there. Now I'm going to use a spigot type trap adapter, and always take the nut off. And the reason for that is when you put the primer in and you put the primer on the fitting, you want it to run down. If it runs to the thread and that nut's on there, it'll glue that nut onto the adapter. Glue both sides, push it in, hold it, and your drain's ready to go. Now we're not hooked up to the system yet on the outside, so I'm not worried about any sewer gases coming out, but if you were tied into a main or a septic tank, you would go ahead and put a rag in there or a paper towel or something like that, because it will stink. Okay, so we're going to continue with our sink. Again, got the drain in, we're moving to the shutoff valves now. And typically, they can't do anything about it. The painters, the mudders, they can't do a lot about this to keep that off of your stub outs. And the easiest way to get that off there is with a 3/4 inch piece of pipe. It doesn't hurt that stub out any. The inside of that pipe is razor sharp, so it is going to flat take that paint, that sheetrock mud right off of there. There we go, we're down to the bare. I typically like to cut this about 1.5 inches out. I've done this long enough, I know where it's at. And I will tighten this, and as I tighten that down, I want to tighten it in different areas. Hold on a second. Okay, part 2. I forgot my bucket, so I had to go get it. So, again, as you're putting pressure on this to cut that pipe, I do it at different areas. That way it keeps it from egging out. It keeps that pipe from bulging out one way or the other. Now the cutter wheel's down here, and what I try to do is when I get close to cutting through that pipe, is I want to tighten it towards the bottom so it wants to notch the bottom of the pipe first. And you'll see why here in a second. By doing that, I'm able to direct how that water is going to come out of that cut and be able to catch it. So I've cut it all the way around. There's just a thin sliver left of copper. And I just want to let that drain down a little bit, and then just basically just take it, wiggle it a little bit, and it comes right off there. I like to use the plastic excussions. They go in good, quick and easy. They don't rust, and especially in a bathroom, that's a big thing, is escutcheons rusting. I like using compression fittings, and I use dope, pipe dope. Now, a compression fitting, these threads, you don't want to put dope on here because all these threads do is draw the nut onto the fitting. That's all they do. This ferrule here, this little brass ferrule, is what seals up the water line. So what I do is I get my dope and I go around that. You get it Just a little bit around there. Now, that's a good trick there also, because if you're working where the pipe's straight up, that dope will help hold that ferrule there and keep it from sliding down on you. That's the valve. Okay, so now we're to the valves. I put this one on, but I biggered up the video, so we're going to do it on this side here. So you've got paint, sheetrock, mud on the stub out. It's typical. They can't help it. They can't get around that. It's going to happen. The easiest way to get it off there is just with a scrap piece of 3/4 inch copper. The inside of that copper pipe is like a razor blade, and it will clean that right off of there. And we're back to copper. Typically, I like to cut them 1.5 inches out. I know how to do this because I know about where it's at because I've done it long enough. And as I tighten down in different areas, in different parts of the pipe, so that I don't egg out the copper there. Now when I get close to the end, the cutter wheel's here. When I get close to the end, I do try to focus on one area. And the reason for that is that right there. I can direct that water down and capture it. And let that bleed off a little bit. And then it's just a matter of lifting this in, wiggling it a little bit, comes right off there. And because I've cut it all the way around, there's no danger of it egging out there. I like to use the plastic escutcheons because we're in a bathroom. Things rust in the bathroom from humidity, especially behind the toilet. You're going to get pee behind the toilet and it's going to rust out that escutcheon pretty quickly. Using a compression fitting here, and all the threads on the compression fitting do is draw the nut to the fitting. That's all they do. They're there for tightening. They are not designed to hold the water. What holds the water, what makes that watertight seal is this ferrule here, this little brass ferrule. And what I do is I get pipe dope and I dope that little ferrule. And that's it. Your valve's on.